Once, a vast empire known as the Ottoman Empire spanned across regions including Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Greece, Bulgaria, Albania, Romania, Macedonia, Serbia, Kosovo, and Hungary. It was a superpower for 6 centuries, spanning 3 continents. However, the sands of time are relentless, and empires, no matter how grand, are not immune to their touch. The mighty Ottoman Empire, after centuries of unparalleled glory and prosperity, began to feel the weight of its own greatness. The winds of change whispered tales of decline and decay, and the once invincible walls of Constantinople began to crumble. This region, known as Turkey today, was called Anatolia 1,000 years ago. It was under the control of the Seljuk Turks in the east and the Romans in the west, with the latter's empire known as the Byzantine Empire, centered in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. The Byzantine Empire had built a series of forts along its border to protect against Turkish invasions, but the increasing attacks were becoming too much for them to handle. The Roman Emperor Romanos decided to amass a large army to permanently eliminate the Turkish threat. Meanwhile, the Seljuk Sultan Alp Arslan was engaged in a war against the Fatimid Caliphate to gain control of regions including Jerusalem and the coastal areas of Syria. Alp Arslan proposed a truce to Romanos, offering to cease attacks on each other's territories, but due to unclear borders and lack of control over border regions, an agreement couldn't be reached, leading to further conflicts. In 1071, Romanos, with his large army, reached a location in Anatolia called Malazgirt. The Seljuk Empire was not far from a confrontation with Alp Arslan, who had to choose a side. He stopped fighting with the Fatimids and prepared his forces in Iran to face the Roman army. He assembled an army of 30,000, including skilled horsemen and archers. Alp Arslan managed to surprise the Roman forces near Lake Van, causing chaos in their ranks. The Romans, unable to regroup, suffered a severe defeat. The Roman emperor, Romanos, was captured. Alp Arslan treated Romanos with respect after his capture, providing him with food and clothing, and even made a treaty with him, gaining control over many areas in Anatolia. Romanos promised a hefty ransom, annual tribute, and the hand of his daughter to Alp Arslan's son. However, upon his return to Constantinople, Romanos was overthrown, blinded, and imprisoned by his own people, where he died a painful death. Anatolia never returned to Roman or Christian control. Attempts to regain the territory failed. The Ottoman Turks, with their nomadic essence and warrior spirits, began their symphony of conquest and civilization, weaving the threads of their destiny into the fabric of history. They were the architects of a realm of power and splendor, a realm that would become a beacon of culture, learning, and military might. The Seljuk Turks defended their territories against the Romans, but faced their greatest threat from the east, from Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan had a great fondness for fine clothes, which were made in the Islamic world. He sent some traders to Sultan Khwarazm Shah, the ruler of Iran and Central Asia, who was a Muslim. The purpose was for these people to collect the finest cloth made in these regions for Genghis Khan. However, Khwarazm Shah, suspecting the traders sent by Genghis Khan to be spies, had them killed. Genghis Khan became furious. He sent a messenger to Khwarazm Shah for an investigation into the matter, but Khwarazm Shah also had him killed. Then, what happened was inevitable. Genghis Khan, like a blind storm, unleashed his wrath upon the Muslims. He ravaged Muslim states from the borders of China to Baghdad, brick by brick. He even reached Anatolia. The successors of Genghis Khan also destroyed the Seljuk Empire. And the remaining small Seljuk Sultanate, which was called Seljuk Rum, was left. The Seljuk Sultanate, also known as Seljuk Rum, was essentially a conglomerate of small states where descendants of Alp Arslan's relatives ruled. Amidst this Seljuk Rum and the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Turks, a tribe under the leadership of Osman, were gradually gaining strength. Osman, the leader of the Ottoman Turks, was born in a place and time about which not much is known today. Even his real name is unclear. It could have been Osman, Othman, or Ottoman, as the Arabic pronunciation Osman was assigned to him much later. Osman was renowned for his bravery, and his warriors were exceptional horsemen, so skilled that they could target their prey while riding horses without holding the reins. Osman lived among his soldiers, a practice that endeared him to his army. In a short span, Osman managed to assemble a large cavalry of Turks and allied with other Turkish leaders in the vicinity. He became so powerful that smaller Mongol bands would avoid confrontation with him. Osman aimed to attack the Byzantine Empire to expand and secure his state, but the river Sakarya posed a natural barrier. Across this river was the Byzantine Empire, which had fortified posts along the river, preventing Osman's advancing troops from crossing. However, around 1300 to 1302, a natural disaster caused the river to change its course, causing the Byzantine fortifications to collapse. Osman seized this opportunity to cross the river and launch attacks on Byzantine territories. The Byzantines, hearing of Osman's attacks, sent an army to counter him. Here, Osman demonstrated the military tactics he learned from the Mongols, which later became the trademark of the Ottomans. Osman first sent a small military unit to face the enemy. When the battle commenced, this unit started to retreat. The enemy, pursuing this unit, reached the location where Osman and his main army were waiting in ambush. Osman attacked with full force, causing significant damage to the Byzantine army. After this victory, Osman conquered many Byzantine castles and cities, with Yenisei being the most significant, making it his capital. His splendid victories made him a hero among the Turks in the region, and Turks in Anatolia began to unite under his banner one by one. Osman's dream was to marry the daughter of a man named Shikid Bali, whom he considered his spiritual guide, but Shikid Bali was not willing. One day, Osman had a dream in which he saw a moon emerging from the chest of Sheikh Bali and entering into his own chest. Subsequently, a large tree sprouted from Osman's body, its branches spreading out east and west. From the roots of this tree, 4 large rivers flowed, and 4 large mountains supported the spreading branches of the tree. Suddenly, a strong wind blew, and the leaves of the tree started moving towards a magnificent city. According to the dream, this city was located where 2 oceans and 2 continents meet. The city was shaped like a ring, and Osman wanted to wear it. However, he woke up before he could do so. Osman narrated this dream to Sheikh Bali, who congratulated him, saying, "Blessings to you. God has given you the glad tidings of a great empire, and you will marry my daughter." History bears witness that the interpretation of this dream came true. It all started when Osman married Rabia, the daughter of Sheikh Bali. The interpretation given by the elder and the weakening Roman Empire significantly boosted Osman's morale. In 1307, Osman laid siege to an important city near Constantinople, called Bursa. The siege lasted 10 years, but eventually, the city fell to the Ottoman Turks. Osman was near death when the city was captured, but he was happy to hear the news and appointed his son Orhan as his successor, asking to be buried in Bursa and to make it the new capital of the Ottoman Turks. Orhan followed his father's wishes and made Bursa the new capital. Now, the Ottoman Turks had a state they could call an empire. Orhan became the first sultan of the Ottoman Empire, a title not used before in their tribe. This new empire was now facing threats not only from the Byzantines but also from another Turkish state, the Karasids. The situation in Anatolia in the 14th century was that many small and large states were competing against each other. Each had only 2 choices, to conquer the neighboring states or to be conquered. The state was facing challenges from both sides. One from the east, from their co-religionist, co-nationalist Muslims Turks. 2 powerful states, Karasi and Karamania, had emerged. Especially Karamania was supported by the Mamluk Sultanate, the largest Muslim government of the time, which extended to present-day Israel, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. Orhan faced challenges from Muslim Turkish states in the east and south, and another challenge from the powerful Byzantine Empire in the west, supported by European countries and Christians. Sultan Orhan was practically at war with both. By this time, the power of the Byzantine Empire in Anatolia had largely ended. But several small cities and forts in the northern region of Bithynia were still under their control. Orhan Sultan wanted to capture these cities to completely eradicate the Romans from Anatolia and secure his sultanate. So, he began to besiege these cities in Bithynia. When the Byzantine emperor heard that his remaining forts were being captured by Ottoman Turks, he started preparing an army to aid the besieged cities. In 1328, he set out with an army of 4,000 soldiers to help the besieged cities. When the Roman emperor set out with the army, news spread that the emperor himself was coming to face the Ottomans. This was the first time a Roman emperor was leading an army against the Ottomans, so the news spread quickly. Sultan Orhan also knew this, so he also set out with his army to stop the Roman emperor on the way. He reached a place near the city of Nicomedia, now known as Izmit or Izmit, where he had a strategic advantage. It was a high mountain from where the army of the Roman emperor could be seen from afar. Turkish horsemen, experts in archery from running horses, hid in a place in the path of the Roman emperor. When the Roman army arrived there under the leadership of their emperor, the hidden horse archers attacked fiercely. The Roman army panicked. The rumor of the emperor's death spread, or was spread. This news was not true, but it broke the morale of the Romans, and the Christian army ran back to the fortress of Constantinople. The emperor also somehow saved his life and reached back to Constantinople. In normal circumstances, this was just a skirmish defeat. There was no formal war or campaign, but this defeat had a profound psychological impact on the Romans. The Roman army and the public did not consider the Ottomans more than an ordinary tribal group. They considered themselves the world's best trained, organized army, which they were. Obviously, the glorious thousand-year history of the Roman Empire also testified to this. So, when the Roman army, with such high claims, lost to the Ottomans in the presence of their emperor, it was nerve-wracking for them. They were so demoralized by this defeat that they stopped supplying their cities or forts in Anatolia, where their own army was present and which were besieged by the Ottoman armies. So, obviously, the besieged army, which had no hope of help from outside, could only resist for so long. One by one, all the notable regions of Bithynia fell into the hands of the Ottoman Turks. This victory of the Ottomans not only broke the morale of the Romans, but also did another thing. That is, one of their important generals, Cantacuzene, saw with his own eyes how formidable the Ottoman army is. He, like a wise man, decided to make the Ottomans his power instead of fighting them. He wanted this because Cantacuzene wanted to become the emperor himself. But obviously, he was neither the son nor the brother of the emperor. If he wanted to become the emperor, he had to rebel. For which he needed an army in support inside the fortress of Constantinople, which he had. And he also needed help from outside so that when there is a fight inside, no one should come with an army against him from outside. In his view, no one could be better helpers than the Ottoman Turks for this. A man started secret communications with Ottoman Sultan Orhan Gazi. This meant that the biggest enemy of the Turks, the general of the Roman Byzantine Empire, had joined forces with the Turkish Sultan. He requested help from Sultan Orhan and promised many attractive benefits in return, including marrying his daughter to him if the Sultan agreed to help. Sultan Orhan accepted the offer, and soon a test of this alliance began. In 1343, when the Roman emperor passed away and his 9-year-old son, John V, was placed on the throne, General Cantacuzene rebelled. He demanded to be made co-emperor or he would wage war. The young emperor didn't understand, but his mother, the queen regent, understood the general's intentions and sought help from another powerful Turkish faction, the Karasi Sultanate. However, they couldn't help much, and a civil war broke out in the Roman Empire. The Ottomans and General Cantacuzene were on one side, and the Roman Emperor, Serbia, Bulgaria, and others were on the other side, including the Karasi Turks. After 6 years of civil war, Cantacuzene became the co-emperor of Constantinople, meaning he won the war. However, this civil war fragmented the Byzantine Empire further. Serbia became independent, Bulgaria seized many parts of Thrace, and the Byzantine Empire was reduced to Constantinople and some coastal cities. The practical result of this war was that the influence of the Ottomans penetrated deep into their biggest enemy's territory. The Ottoman Sultan even became the father-in-law of the Romans' co-emperor. This was a significant success for the Ottomans, and they also gained control over the Karasi Turks, their other big enemy. The Karasi Sultanate gradually disappeared because it had no major ally left. Due to the conquest of the Karasi Sultanate, the Ottoman Turks were near the Dardanelles, from where they could enter Europe. There were only two ways to enter Europe from Anatolia. One was by conquering the strongly fortified city of Constantinople, which was very difficult at that time. The other way was through the Dardanelles, which you see on the map. Anyway, entering and conquering Europe was a dream for the Turks. This dream was seen by their founder, Gazi Osman Bey, and now they were on the verge of this dream, but a sea was in the way. A small, narrow sea, but still a sea. And on the other side was the powerful army of Europe, which didn't want them to cross the Dardanelles at any cost. But in the mid-14th century, Cantacuzene tried to make his son the emperor in his place, leading to another rebellion. He once again sought help from Sultan Orhan. Now, he was also the father-in-law of Sultan Orhan. But this time, Sultan Orhan set another condition. He said that if he helped, he should be allowed to establish a military base in Gallipoli, across the thin sea between Europe and Asia, the Dardanelles. Cantacuzene needed military help only in Europe, so he agreed. Thus, the Ottoman Turks entered Europe without shedding a drop of blood. They were temporarily there, but they were there. Sultan Orhan sent his son, Suleiman, with a large army to Gallipoli. With the arrival of the Ottoman army, Cantacuzene's position strengthened. But it also created a problem for him. The Turks had a tradition of Gaza, meaning they waged jihad to make Asian regions part of their empire. This is why Turkish rulers are also called Gazi, like Osman Gazi, Orhan Gazi. So, the son of Sultan Orhan Gazi, Suleiman Gazi, did not just establish a military base in Europe but also began advancing and started capturing areas in Thrace, west of the Byzantine Empire's fortress, Constantinople, in Europe. The Romans became alarmed when the powerful Ottoman Turks, who were already in the east of the Roman Empire, started expanding to the west. This was due to the actions of the Roman Emperor Cantacuzenus, who faced severe criticism and hatred from the Romans. He urgently messaged Sultan Orhan, asking him not to invade European territories and to limit his military bases or withdraw. However, the response was that the territories conquered from the infidels would not be returned. The regions of Gallipoli and Thracia, where temporary bases were established to aid the Roman emperor, permanently became part of the Ottoman Empire and are still part of Turkey today. Due to Cantacuzenus's actions, he was dethroned, and the Roman Empire got a new emperor who was an open enemy to Sultan Orhan Gazi. Sultan Orhan Gazi passed away in 1362, but by then, he had transformed the state he inherited from his father into a sultanate, which had doubled in size and expanded from Anatolia to Europe. However, a problem arose as Sultan Orhan had 3 sons, and only one could inherit the sultanate. Suleiman, who had established the first military base in Europe under his father's orders, was already deceased. So, the remaining 2, Murad Gazi and Khalil Gazi, were in contention. Murad Gazi killed Khalil Gazi and became the new ruler of the Ottoman Empire, Sultan Murad I. Sultan Murad I continued the tradition of raids but added a new force to his army, a force of slaves, known for their discipline and organization. These slaves were Christian children taken from the Balkan Peninsula, converted to Islam, and given extensive military training. They were known as janissaries and became the most powerful part of the Ottoman army, playing crucial roles in many historical events, including the conquest of Constantinople. Initially, Christian parents were saddened by the loss of their children, but as the prestige of the Janissary army grew, parents began to willingly send their children to join, as it offered a chance for high status and influence in the royal court. By 1370, a powerful army was forming in the Ottoman Empire, and Sultan Murad I was advancing the tradition of raids established by the Ottomans. Ghazwa means to fight for control over Christian territories and expand the Islamic Empire. This fight was now to happen across the sea in Europe, but the center of the Ottoman Empire was still in Bursa, in Anatolia. To lead the armies across the sea, there needed to be a military center in Europe where the Sultan could stay and lead the Ghazwa himself. So, Sultan Murad I conquered Edirne, a major city in Europe, and made it the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. Sometimes the Sultan was in Anatolia and sometimes in Europe, but his teacher, Lala Shaheen Pasha, governed Edirne. The word Lala was used by Turks to show respect to their teachers or tutors. The Christians in Europe were very worried because of the Ottoman Turks' entry into Europe and their control over Edirne. Especially, the emperor of the Serbian Empire was not happy because Edirne was right next to his border. The Serbian emperor saw the Ottomans as a threat and decided to eliminate this threat early on. He prepared a large army of 50,000 soldiers to face the Ottomans. Shaheen Pasha, who was not only a governor but also a skilled general of the Turks, got the news that the Serbian army was planning to attack Edirne. He saw this as an opportunity and quietly waited near the river with 800 brave soldiers. When the Serbian army was celebrating and resting at night, the 800 Turks suddenly attacked them. The Serbian army, half asleep and intoxicated, didn't know that the attackers were less than 1,000 in number. They thought it was a big attack and started running away. In this running, thousands of Serbians were killed. This battle is remembered as the Battle of Maritsa. The result of the battle was that the Serbians, who came to defeat the Ottomans, lost their territory. The Serbian Empire, which was a big empire, broke into pieces, and these pieces started paying tribute to the Ottoman Empire. This great defeat of the Serbians and the victory of the Ottoman Turks over one of the most important Christian states in Europe was like a message of death for the Christian states in Europe. In this situation, the Christians in Europe united against this empire, the Ottoman Empire. The Pope started uniting Christians all over Europe against the Ottoman Empire. It meant that another crusade was about to begin. Before this, there had been long crusades between Muslims and European Christians for Jerusalem, in which Muslims were victorious. At that time, Jerusalem was under the rule of the Mamluk Sultanate. On one side, the Ottoman Turks also called the war against European Christians jihad, and Europeans also called it a religious war or crusade. So, both sides started preparing for a religious war. The Ottoman Empire's army was united and organized, but Europe was scattered. To face an army with excellent military skills like the Ottoman Turks, they needed a leader. There was something that Europeans didn't have at the time, but then this leader emerges on the edge of a broken state of Serbia. This was Prince Lazar of Serbia, who rebelled against the Turks in the late 1300s. He refused to pay the tribute that had been paid since the Battle of Maritsa. Lazar even managed to defeat the Ottoman soldiers in a skirmish. His victory gave hope to Europe that they could regain their freedom. Meanwhile, Bosnia also rebelled against the Ottoman Empire and defeated a Turkish troop. These victories boosted the morale of European Christians, making them believe they could easily expel the Ottoman Empire from Europe. Prince Lazar started gathering an army under his banner in the Balkans, supported by the Pope and his knights. 100,000 soldiers were ready to fight for freedom under religious slogans, led by Prince Lazar, who had become a hero for European Christians. The Ottoman Turks were also prepared. After suffering defeats from the Serbs and Bosnia, Sultan Murad I returned to Europe, leaving his son Yaqub in Anatolia. Sultan Murad had his personal army, the Janissary army, with him. On August 1, 1389, at the location of today's Kosovo, Sultan Murad I stood with 60,000 soldiers against 100,000 crusaders. This battle is known as the Battle of Kosovo, a decisive battle for the Ottomans in Europe. Sultan Murad's son Bayezid was leading a part of the army, while the Sultan himself was in the center with his highly trained army. Initially, the Christians had the upper hand, pushing back a section of the Ottoman army. Sultan Murad made a brave decision to send his best soldiers, who were also his protectors, forward to fight, leaving himself alone. It was a risky move, and he could have been killed, which would have led to the Ottomans losing the battle. And that's what happened. A Christian knight managed to reach the Sultan and killed him with a dagger. Meanwhile, the leader of the Christians, Prince Lazar, was also killed in the battle. Now, Lazar's son and Sultan Murad's son, Bayezid, were leading their respective armies. The battle was intense, with bodies piling up. But then, a significant section of the European army started retreating, breaking the Christian army's backbone. It is said that the leader of this section had already sided with the Turks. The Battle of Kosovo ended with both armies suffering thousands of casualties and losing their leaders. It seemed like there was no decisive victory, but it was a strategic victory for the Turks. The Serbs suffered so much damage that they gave up their struggle against the Ottomans and became a vassal state, paying tribute to the Ottomans. By 1390, almost the entire region of the Balkans, including the Roman Byzantine Empire, became a vassal to the Ottoman Empire, paying annual tribute and providing soldiers when needed. Sultan Murad I may have lost his life in the Battle of Kosovo, but he left a large empire for his successors, tripling the size of the empire he inherited from his father, Sultan Orhan. The empire had expanded, but Sultan Murad was no more, and the Ottoman Empire urgently needed a new sultan. In the tumult of battle, Sultan Murad I's son, Bayezid, was present. He, along with a few others, were privy to the knowledge that Sultan Murad I had passed away. Bayezid's first move was to keep this information confidential. His brother, Yaqub, was amassing an army in Anatolia, left there by their father, and was oblivious to the developments on the battlefield. Consequently, Bayezid dispatched some of his loyalists to pursue Yaqub. Following the clandestine traditions of the Turks, Yaqub was secretly strangled to death. This method was not unique to the Ottoman Turks, but was prevalent among the empires of that era. Every new emperor considered it a primary duty to eliminate other contenders to the throne to maintain order in the state. As long as there were other claimants to the throne, palace conspiracies would persist. Under this presumption, every new sultan, including Bayezid, would ensure the elimination of every potential claimant, including his brothers, to secure his reign and quell any internal strife or conspiracies. Ascending to the throne, Bayezid I became the new sultan of the Ottoman Empire. However, his reign was not predominantly shadowed by the threat of the Crusades, but rather by internal dissent and external threats from his own ally, Emir Timur. In a region near the border of the Turkish Sultanate, the realms of two colossal empires converged. The Ottoman Empire, under the rule of Sultan Bayezid I, was expanding its territories across Europe and Asia. In contrast, the Timurid Empire, led by the warrior Emir Timur, had already marked its dominion from Baghdad to Delhi and from the Arabian deserts to the Uzbek mountains. Here, the ambitions and might of two powerful leaders and their empires collided, each carving out their own swathes of territories and leaving indelible marks on the annals of history. After having his brother Yaqub killed, Bayezid I needed time to organize and manage the huge state. He established peace in Europe by marrying the daughter of the king of Serbia, the largest and nearest sultanate, which the Turks had defeated in a historic battle. The biggest threat in the east was another Muslim state, the Sultanate of Karaman, supported by the Mamluk Sultanate, which ruled over Egypt and the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Bayezid married his sister to the Emir of Karaman, Al-Adil, to establish peace, but it didn't make Karaman a compliant state. Emir Timur, a warrior leader from today's Uzbekistan, had conquered regions including present-day Uzbekistan, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Azerbaijan, Russia, Syria, and Turkey. He was feared for his brutal conquests, often massacring entire cities and building towers with the skulls of the victims. The borders of the Timurid and Ottoman empires were getting closer, and a clash seemed inevitable due to the arrogance and pride of both rulers. Emir Timur was attacking Muslim regions, and his brutal conquests included Baghdad, where thousands were killed. A prince from Baghdad sought refuge in the Ottoman Empire, and similarly, leaders from Anatolia sought refuge with Emir Timur. Bayezid received a letter from Emir Timur demanding the return of conquered regions, which infuriated Bayezid. He humiliated Timur's messengers and sent them back, signaling that the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire feared no one. This was a declaration of war, but before the war, the tensions had to escalate further. Bayezid learned that Emir Timur was preparing to attack the Ottoman Empire in alliance with the Mamluk Sultanate. The Mamluk Sultanate, the guardian of the two holy mosques, started supporting Timur, along with various other Muslim states like Karaman, the Golden Horde, Aq Koyunlu, and others. Sultan sent a furious letter to Timur, expressing his anger and warning him due to Timur's boundless greed. Sultan advised him to lower his arrogance and anchor on the shores of sincerity, as it was the only way to safety, or else he would face the storm of Sultan's revenge and drown in the sea of punishment he deserved. The letter reached Emir Timur, and now the war was inevitable. European Christians, who were recently fighting against the Ottoman Turks and calling it a war between Islam and Christianity, started sending messages to Emir Timur, offering their support against the Ottomans. Even the Byzantine Empire secretly assured Timur of their support. Timur's army then began to move towards the Ottoman Empire and seized a part of the Turkish Sultanate, Shivas, in 1401, claiming it was rightfully owned by Muslims and unlawfully occupied by Bayezid. However, conquering the fortress was difficult due to its strong walls, but Timur ingeniously undermined the foundations, causing the walls to collapse and allowing him to take over the city. He then took revenge on the captured Turks and citizens, spreading fear by burying 4,000 prisoners alive beneath the foundations of the fortress. Bayezid's son and other leaders were also killed by Timur. Bayezid, who was besieging Constantinople at the time, had no choice but to confront Timur after hearing about his son's death and his losses. He positioned his nearly 90,000 troops in a strategically advantageous location near Ankara. When Timur arrived, he realized he couldn't defeat Bayezid there and retreated. Bayezid pursued him, leaving his secure camp. Timur retreated to the borders of his empire, but still didn't find a suitable battlefield. Bayezid forced him to a location where the strategic advantage was with the Turks. Timur didn't want to give Bayezid his preferred battlefield, so he retreated again, and mysteriously, Timur and his 1.5 lakh army disappeared. Bayezid was puzzled about where such a large army could have gone. Eventually, in July 1402, Bayezid found out that Timur's lost army had reached behind him and had besieged Ankara, burning all the crops and food storages on Bayezid's return route. Bayezid had no choice but to go to Ankara through a route with no food or water. Timur's army was now positioned in a location that suited him, with three major advantages. The battlefield was of his choosing, his army was larger and rested, and it included elephants from India. In contrast, Bayezid's army was tired, hungry, and had lost 20,000 soldiers during the long journey. Despite all these advantages and disadvantages, both sultans knew well that this was going to be one of the largest battles between the world's most powerful military machines, as there was no third empire on earth more powerful than these two at the time. The first attack was made by Emir Timur, but the Turkish army repelled it. However, as time passed, the Timurid army started gaining the upper hand. Sultan Bayezid had to retreat, leaving only a small group of his loyal men to fight against the Timurid cavalry. Eventually, Bayezid was captured, marking a significant defeat for the Ottoman Empire. Bayezid, a conqueror of Europe and Asia, couldn't bear the humiliation and died in captivity a few months later. After his death, Emir Timur also died, and his empire fragmented. The Ottoman Empire also fragmented among Bayezid's sons and went through internal conflicts. However, it didn't collapse completely, partly because there was no significant power in Europe to expel the Turks from Europe or Anatolia after the fall of Bayezid I. In the tapestry of history, the saga of the Ottoman Empire emerges as a vibrant thread, woven with the valor and visions of its formidable founders. It was Osman Gazi who sowed the seeds of this empire in the fertile soils of Anatolia, dreaming of a realm that would stretch across continents. Osman Gazi's descendants, Orhan, Murad I, and Bayezid I, each played their part in nurturing the sapling he had planted. This journey from Osman Gazi to Bayezid is a mesmerizing tale of rise, resilience, and realization. It's a story that whispers to us through the winds of time, telling us about the power of dreams, the importance of determination, and the endless possibilities that lie in the pursuit of vision. If you enjoyed journeying through the corridors of time with us, please give this video a like, subscribe to our channel for more historical treasures, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to step into the past with every notification.